Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Transforming Your Close and Reconciliations. In this webinar, we will discuss how Blackline can help your business accelerate financial close and accounting processes with reduced risk and create more time for analysis. Ultimately, along with a few other areas, so things like improving reporting accuracy, being a little bit more agile, future growth, streamlining of audits and support, removing some of the bottlenecks, and we'll talk also around Blackline's modern accounting playbook. Excuse me. Let's also introduce ourselves, who's joining you and who's going to be talking through today's webinar. I'll introduce myself first. My name is Gareth Potter, and I'm also a co-host in this webinar. I'm the Sales Director for Folio 3, who you'll hear more about shortly. In terms of my background, I've been in the software industry for over 20 years now, helping businesses make better strategic decisions with the use of technology when it comes down to all things ERP, finance management and integrations. Joining me today is Nigel Stanley, Senior Channel Director of EMEA for Blackline, and also Josh May, Manager of the Solutions Consulting Organisation at Blackline. Welcome to you both, gentlemen.
Thank you, Gareth.
So those of you who may not have come across Folio 3 and Blackline as a collaboration, let's take you through that in a couple of moments. I think what is absolutely key for modern finance functions is that their ability to perform and collaborate can be enabled and supported not only by the choice of software, but the ecosystem of partners and applications that complement them. Today, we'll talk around how Blackline does what it does, but also how it complements cloud-leading ERP platforms such as Oracle NetSuite. So let's introduce Blackline and Folio 3. So Blackline is a leading provider of cloud software, ultimately something that automates and controls critical accounting processes. Companies who go to Blackline more often than not is because their traditional accounting processes are not sustainable. What do Blackline do? They help them move to modern accounting, unifying data processes and automation around somewhat manually intensive, repetitive work and creating some accountability through visibility of what's going on in the organization. In that collaboration piece is Folio 3. Folio 3, amongst many other things, is a solution partner, global solution partner of Blackline, as well as a leading partner for NetSuite in their alliance partner world. Also specializing in digital transformation. We specialize in all aspects of ERP and finance, from implementation, integrations, and additional bespoke development. We've been recognized as experts in these domains and have received numerous prestigious awards of late, such as the NetSuite ERP Experts Award, NetSuite Alliance Partner of the Year for EMEA, and various other industry-specific recognitions through NetSuite and a wider world. So when we look at what Blackline does and what are we going to hear more about today? So Blackline is ultimately specializing here and in this example around financial close management. We'll talk today around how to accelerate your financial close, looking at those accounting processes and how we can ultimately assist with risk mitigation and creating more time to add some value to the organization. We'll also talk today around how we can unify, automate and modernize those processes. How can we assist with refocusing of teams on strategic work, on analysis, and like I said before, replacing these mundane, repetitive processes with automation and intelligence? How can we centralize data, and how can we support close activities through automation of journal entries, reconciliations, and create a wider, enhanced level of visibility? If we look at Blackline, by their numbers, Blackline is, without a very fast growing global company. Having over 4,000 customers worldwide, its cloud accounting platform and industry leading best practices enable fast results. With over 300,000 users and growing daily, it's been recognised by Gartner as a leading class over the last 4 years. As a software company, it's important to partner with companies who also share a common goal in terms of development. With $50 million year on year being invested in product, it shows that Blackline genuinely is committed to taking a product forward and providing leading class solutions to its customer base. What also can't be ignored, as you'll see on screen, is the return on investment attributed to Blackline implementations. We'll see how that adds value later in this webinar.
Thank you, Gareth. So what I'd like to do now is pick up on some of those things you've already introduced in terms of what Blackline does. And there are 3 key areas here that I'm going to focus on. First is the guidance. Second is the connection. And third is the commitment from both Folio 3 and from Blackline. So in terms of guidance, Blackline is over 20 years old. It has developed this path to modern accounting over that period of time. And through that, we've been able to develop a scalable solution that is suitable for nearly every organization in the world. And when we say suitable, it also means that we can develop it and implement it in less than 90 days. And for those of you who are NetSuite customers, that is probably closer to 60 days. Because we have developed this modern accounting playbook, which we'll go into a little bit more detail in a minute. But we're also connected. Because we have been around for so long, we have over 4,000 customers globally, as Gareth pointed out, but more than half of those are what we would classify as mid-sized customers. So those that have a turnover of less than $500 million. With those over 300,000 users that we've got, we have this community of expertise. It is not just those people who work for Blackline or work for Folio 3 and our other partners, but all of those users of the software themselves who can share via the Blackline community their experiences and the benefits that they gain through the use of the Blackline software. And again, Gareth picked out on our commitment. We are investing $50 million a year plus into development of the product as we're taking it forward, making it easier to use, giving it more richer functionality for you, to the benefit of all of our current customers and also all of our future customers. And we are very much dedicated to finance automation. So whilst today we are going to be concentrating on the core financial close elements of what we do, we are continually developing and acquiring other businesses that are going to benefit the CFO, the controller, and everybody else who is integrated into the finance of any organization. So what we talk about is manual accounting no longer being sustainable. What we're looking at is a different way of managing the processes that you have within the finance and accounting department. And there are, again, 4 key areas that need to be addressed here. The first is time, that there are bottlenecks there. The second is cost. The third is risk. And the fourth, and this has become more and more prevalent, we've noticed over the last few years, is productivity from disengaged employees. So let's just think about this a little bit more. So when we talk about time, a lot of what is done is manual. And that causes bottlenecks within the financial close process, because if it's manual, it's typically one person is waiting another person or other people to have to complete something else. There is no automation in that process at all. And there's also necessarily no notifications. It also means that there's a lot of copy and pasting. And that also comes out then when we get to the risk, because there can be financial errors that haven't been identified. And there is a risk then when reporting those numbers, whether it be internally or externally, that the market is going to get the wrong impression about what is happening within a business, and potentially then the wrong decisions are getting made. And the other thing, and this has come from research from the likes of Gallup, that more and more FTEs tend to be needed the bigger a business gets. Because of all these manual processes, you need to keep adding people into the finance and accounting department, and that adds to the overall cost. If we can start automating some of these processes, then what we can start doing is bringing down the overhead that is associated with completing all of the financial close management tasks. And what this also means is that productivity will improve for those people who are there. Many people who work in the finance and accounting department are highly qualified, have gone through an awful lot of training, but are having to do very simple, manual, repetitive tasks. And that is, again, what we're looking to remove those tasks so they can actually focus on the activities that are going to be either revenue generating or going to be contributing to the success of the business. You may have seen a slide like this before, where we talk about manual accounting being chaos. Again, we've got key triggers in here around the finance and accounting function. You have the people who are involved. You have the technology, the process. And then from an outside as well as inside point of view, you need to consider things such as regulation and compliance rules, communications, and the reporting, again, whether that be internal or external. And we'll pick up on all of those themes separately. As you can see, the different types of people who are involved, who are going to be in different parts of the organization, not necessarily just in finance and accounting. There will be people in audit. There will be people in marketing and sales who need information quickly and accurately. When we talk about technology, you may have one ERP, you may have multiple versions of the same ERP, and that could well be NetSuite, or you could have different ERPs for different divisions or territories for your business. It's probably highly likely that you're using things such as Excel. You may be using SharePoint. You will be using other pieces of software technology as well, which are not designed for the close. They are designed for the types of activities, such as spreadsheets, for doing complex calculations and that sort of thing, and maybe for some reporting, but they are not designed to manage the way in which you close and in which you would do high volume reconciliations. The processes are very much going to be dependent on the business. At the end of the day, the process for actually closing your accounts at the end of each month, quarter, year, will be similar from business to business. But the way in which it's done may not be consistent. It may not involve the right collaboration, and it can also lead to risk. When we come to regulation, there are going to be different regulations in different territories. We can see the types of things down there, whether it be GAAP or SOX, IFRS, etc. All of these need to be managed, especially for organizations that are operating internationally or operating within marketplaces that may have separate regulations, such as the pharmaceutical industry, the finance industry, insurance industry. From a communication point of view, again, you may have people working in different time zones. A lot of that will therefore be happening via things such as email, maybe a Teams meeting, maybe phone calls, sharing information, and things such as Dropbox or shared drives. And then you've got your reporting. NetSuite is brilliant at doing your reporting if you want your balance sheet, your profit and loss reports, your cash flows. All of that is great. But that is not the reports that are necessarily are interesting the management, the executives within your organization. They want to see behind the detail. And then externally, you may have investors that are going to need other types of reports. And all of that needs to be using accurate data. So if we move forward, what you start to see here is all of these different types of interactions. Who's having to talk to who? Who's having to send information to who within here? And it becomes very complex to try and manage this. And ultimately, it becomes unsustainable. So we need to go back to those pillars of time. With all of these different people, different technologies, different processes, regulations that are in place, what we need to do is find a way in which all of these can be done in a timely manner so that all of the information that your business needs to move forward can be achieved. And that comes through also reducing risk. If you are not having to rekey information from one system to another system, from one email to another spreadsheet, whatever it may be, you are reducing the risk. When it comes to finance and accounting, we'll never eliminate all of the risk. But what we can do is we can significantly reduce that amount of risk in there. And we can standardize on the processes so that all of our business units, divisions, companies, countries are all following the same process on the same time frames. Again, by bringing in the automation and using one system for the management of all of our financial close and management processes. And by doing this, our skilled accountants within the business can move away from the mundane activities that they have been doing in terms of ticking and checking on a lot of things, reading lots of emails, reconfiguring Excel spreadsheets, and actually start working on exceptions. Okay, we've identified an error or we've identified an issue. What do we need to do to resolve that and focus on that rather than actually just the data itself? So how does Blackline work? Well, Blackline can work in many different ways. It is ERP agnostic, but the great thing is we have many customers who use NetSuite, and we are talking 500, 600, 700 of our 4,000 plus customers have NetSuite within their portfolio. For some of them, it will be their only ERP. For others, they may have multiple versions of it. For others, they may also have other ERPs. But it does not matter how many different ERPs a company may have. They only need to have one Blackline. And therefore, you have one source of the truth in your core application for managing your financial close. So how does Blackline work? Well, Blackline is a SaaS or cloud solution. It's multi-tenanted, so it makes it easy for your clients, whether they've got one ERP or multiple ERP, to unify all of their operations. It will integrate with any financial system of record. So this means we can not just integrate with your ERP systems, but we can also bring in data from other systems that you may have. You may use something such as Kyriba for your treasury. You will have banking files. You will have information that contains other financial information that you want to bring in to one place so it can be reconciled and managed. And of course, the great advantage of having a web-based solution is you have 24/7 access, which means if you've got people located around the world who are working on different activities, those activities can be continued by following the sun. And it allows for your organization to better collaborate and assign their resources more flexibly. So I think to give you a better idea of what Blackline looks like, and the type of capabilities and functionality the software has, I would now like to hand over to my colleague, Josh, who will just give you a brief overview.
Thank you very much indeed. Excellent. Well, thank you very much for joining us on the webinar today. My name is Josh May. I'm the Solutions Consulting Manager for the EMEA region. What I'd like to do today is briefly take you through the Blackline solution to give you a first view as to exactly what the solution is capable of, and kind of really set in context exactly some of the value that we can bring to our customers around the world. Because any company that has a finance department, we can work with. With over 4,000 customers, there is a great track record to really clearly define what does and what doesn't work. So from a Blackline perspective, I joined the company 7 years ago. I'm an ex-customer. I bought and implemented the solution when I was in charge of the reporting team at Camelot, which is a London-based company which runs international gambling operations. So we implemented the solution well within 3 months. We managed to achieve 80% automation in delivering automatic reconciliations across the 9 companies in the group in which we worked. So a really good return on investment, a very fast time to value, and this actually delivered a lot of benefit in an initial wave, which brought together all of the different steps in the process that we were delivering around the period end close. So we started off with account reconciliations and transaction matching. What that meant was we had an explanation for all of the transactions that made up the reported balance within our balance sheet, and it meant that every single reconciliation was being done in a timely manner. We were actually doing 5,000 balance sheet reconciliations using Excel spreadsheets at the time. So to be able to automate that process and from day one of go live, remove all the work around 80% of those was an incredible win in such a short time frame. It also allowed us to align who was doing what and when using our task management solution in our cloud-based suite. So we knew the progress that was being made, we could highlight what due dates were, and if additional resource was needed, it was very easy to be able to reallocate that in the Blackline tool, and of course report on all of this. So this gave me a single platform. In my role of controller, I was able to see who was doing what and when, and what the numbers actually looked like. The mantra from the Blackline perspective is very much a clean balance sheet leads to a cleaner P&L that really leads to an overall cleaner set of financial statements. So very much with that in mind, we then looked after the initial phase 1, which we rolled out very much as a kind of first wave. We wanted to take the next step, but obviously had to do it alongside our day-to-day business as usual. So we were able to split out the rollout of the wider suite, really capitalizing on those initial wins to free up time to focus on snowballing the improvements on our tech roadmap journey to then consider the journal entry solution within Blackline, aligning those journals to make sure that they were going in a timely manner and to automate that process, again, freeing up considerable time to focus on other more strategic value-adding areas, such as explaining the variances identified across the entire trial balance. Rather than taking an Excel-based approach to this process, we were able to then do that through Blackline. At the same time, ticking off within our compliance arena, we were obviously a company that was highly regulated. This meant that as the work was being done in the finance function for reconciliations, transaction matching and completing tasks, that also ticked off within the same platform in the compliance solution to ensure we were compliant with the regulations that we had to follow. So where do people go from here? This also opens up being able to align with your consolidated figures, making sure the underlying entities when compared with the consolidation platform, all in alignment, highlighting where there are topside adjustments required, documenting what those are with supporting evidence and commentary, and then moving towards aligning all of your intercompany entries and automating your cash process. So this is how Blackline works. It brings in the source of data to support all of these solutions in Blackline. It applies rules and business logic in the brain, in the heart of Blackline, taking a very standardized best practice template approach to really ensure all of the work that's done is delivered to the highest quality, providing analysis and reporting in real time and allocating workflow out in the system. So Blackline users will see that there is a massive step up in terms of visibility across all of the transactional level information through the reporting at the balance level and across the workflow from start to finish across the period end close. It's going to drive automation, and it's going to enable you to work more effectively with the business partners, with the broader community within your company. So within 60 days for NetSuite users, typically around 90 days for other ERP users, we can roll this out and really optimize your process and then consider where do you want to go from there, expanding the suite and really delivering a broader platform for you very quickly indeed. So based on what Nigel told us earlier on, we can integrate with any ERP system. We've integrated with over 100 different ERP providers in the last 21 years of the company, the Blackline history. What this does is it's given us some great experience as to how best connect via either SFTP, API, or using our NetSuite, SAP, Oracle, and other connectors to make that import of data from your ERP into Blackline absolutely seamless. It's a great way of bringing the data into the system from your ERP alongside any other data provider that you may be wanting to link in with. This means we can match those transactions off at least 1 million transactions a minute across up to 3 data sources at the same time, straight out of the box. What this is going to do is match those items off and allocate those items automatically into relevant categories. You'll see what does match, what partially matches, but most importantly, what doesn't match, which can then be pushed through an appropriate workflow process to be able to remediate those items that need adjustment, including pushing adjustments via our journal entry product into the ERP if required. So this is a very, very clear process to show who's doing what and when, and being able to see all of that in the Blackline solution, which hopefully you'll now be able to see appearing on the screen in front of you. So we can see within Blackline, it is a cloud-based solution. This enables you to log in as I'm doing today on a laptop, working remotely from my home office. It can be on the tube as you travel into work, sat in an airport lounge. You can even do it through the Blackline app. This gives flexibility, and it does mean that globally, everybody within your company, irrespective of where they're located, will be logging into the same instance for your firm. Of course, we provide military grade levels of security, being SOC 123 compliance, ISO 27001 compliance. It does just mean that the way we treat your data is actually far more secure than holding it on premise. As soon as you log into the system, you've got reporting dashboards that give you a visibility and a real-time update as to progress being made with reconciling items at the transaction level, showing how you're progressing with the completion of reconciling those particular accounts, but also how you're getting on with completing work around the period end close, automatically categorizing these items and putting them into relevant risk categories. Now you'll notice on here, I can see when all of my due dates fall due across the course of the month, very much with a view that we can move items away from the period end close and look to spread the work out more equally across the course of the month, taking away the pressure on your period end close. So with the automation levels that I've already mentioned, typically 40 to 85% are the automation levels we achieve from day one of go live, and it will only rise from there. We can see we're freeing up time to actually be more strategic, automatically identifying the variances, but getting your accountants to utilize their skills through training to be able to explain what these variances are based on looking at individual entities, overs and unders, looking at percentages alongside amounts. It's giving me the visibility to be able to drill down straight into the actual transactional level to explain what these items are. So a great way of seeing who's doing what and when, and being able to provide explanations for items outside a given threshold. Now, what I'd like to do today is to start off by showing you an example of a kind of day in the life of a preparer within Blackline, but you'll notice there are different roles available to apply an appropriate workflow approval process for preparers, if needed, approvers for certain items, and in certain extreme circumstances, review beyond that. We can configure teams of people to work more effectively together to circumvent bottlenecks if somebody calls in sick, leaves the business, whatever the reason. We can either permanently or temporarily reassign their work to other qualified users within the finance department to pick up that work and avoid any overruns. Alongside that, there are roles available for management, for senior finance executives, and we can share access with auditors, both internal and external, in a read-only capacity, enabling them to be able to perform a lot of the audit remotely and not charge you for the privilege of spending time with them in your own offices. Now, of course, the entire system can be configured by you in the finance department using the system administrator role to add and remove users, set up new period end dates, allocate work more fairly around the department, and that takes away the reliance completely from you having to actually rely on your IT department or indeed on Blackline to do those simple tasks for you. So within the platform, let's go and have a look at an example of how one might use the tool to be able to track who's doing what and when they're going to do it at the period end. So I'm logged in as a preparer and I want to see all of the work that I've got to do at the period end. Now you'll notice up here that the system has provided me with a list of all of the tasks that I've got to do within this period end, and I can refer back to prior periods if I want to. I can get future periods set up. It's all about the flexibility and visibility within the Blackline tool. There are different views available to help me focus on different areas around my role within the finance function. If I wanted to, I could upload things like the provided by client list from the auditors, a great way of allocating the work out and making it very clear what the due dates are from a working day perspective, calendar date, but also time of day if relevant. So clearly defining what the tasks are that are needed, and it's very easy for me to then build that out in a parent-child relationship. For instance, if I wanted to see what the underlying steps that are needed to be completed towards my period end close, it lays it out in a very clear relationship, showing those steps that need to be done, with real-time updates here showing me a tick and a P where items have been completed. So in this example here, I can see the green item here relates to a journal entry that has been done, which I can easily step sideways into if I wanted to. I can see that then notifies the users through email and Blackline that there is the parent step to be completed, which happens to be a task. And once done, that will then push me towards the final step in the process, which is this item in purple, telling me that's actually a reconciliation. So I can step through from the task management solution without having to go back to the opening screen. I don't have to log in again. It's all about the ease of navigation within Blackline, where I'm presented with the latest reconciliation for the current period, updated with the latest general ledger balance, so I can drill straight through into my ERP if I wanted to, because of course we have single sign-on functionality. So this shows me where we've got to when we're reconciling our accounts. This is a simple example where we've got minimal transactions going through this account. But if I wanted to understand how this compares back against my budget or against the prior period, I can use our variance analysis tool and at the touch of a button, drill straight through and understand and explain the variances which have been captured. So I hope you're getting a picture that all of these tools being combined together in a single cloud-based platform within Blackline can deliver synergies. It's a great way of getting more than the sum of the individual parts in the Blackline tool. What I'll do now is show you an example of how we can deal with much higher volumes of transactions going through accounts, which typically otherwise might be being dealt with via simple Excel spreadsheets or more basic matching tools. Within Blackline, what we're able to do is to be able to automatically match these items off against each other using one-to-one matching functionality, one-to-many and many-to-many, way beyond the kind of matching capability which is delivered through tools like NetSuite and other transaction matching tools. And by being able to do this so quickly, we can automatically categorize these items and deal with items which aren't matched off in the system itself, allocating it as a piece of work for other people to deliver or pushing journal entries through into your underlying NetSuite instance through our unique NetSuite connector, which Folio 3 can set up for you and will have you then integrated between the two systems for it to work seamlessly. Now, the matching process will match these items off with suggested matches, partial matches. Users can perform manual matches and, of course, deal with those unmatched items, whether you want to report them on the face of the rec, allocate them, or journal them back into the ERP. You'll notice in this example, we're looking at an intercompany account where we're reconciling two accounts at the same time, the London payable accounts and our Paris receivable accounts. These are the two balances which have been reported. We brought the transactions in and matched them off, and then this helps us identify what needs to be adjusted in one or other company to ultimately reconcile the account and send it off through an approval workflow. The final thing just to highlight with you today before I hand back the baton to my colleagues is that there is comprehensive reporting available within the Blackline tool. What this is going to do is really supplement the visibility in the platform on top of those reporting dashboards. You can go straight into the Blackline library. We provide you with 71 of the most popular reports used by our extensive customer base. We've got around 400,000 users around the world, so some experience to be able to draw on in what are the most useful reports. You can run these reports, you can create your own ones using drag and drop, save those items down in the platform and have them run on a regular basis by the system for you just by scheduling these items. What this means is you can go into the system and see what the progress is that's being made, highlight where there are items that need to be addressed by you within the platform, and using a combination of graphs and the actual figures below that, it's very easy to see what's going on in the system. So that's all I planned to share with you today. There will be a Q&A session coming up shortly. Feel free to ask any questions you've got, but also feel free to get in contact through Folio 3, our partner for Blackline implementation and configuration. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Josh. So what I'd like to do now is just talk a little bit about Blackline and NetSuite. But actually, it's not going to be me talking. As I mentioned before, we have approaching 700 customers who have NetSuite within their ERP portfolio who also use Blackline. And what I've got here is a company called GoodRx. You can see that they use NetSuite. They've been using Blackline for about 3 years now. And you can see some of the benefits they've got here. But I think it would probably make more sense if we actually heard from them. So if you bear with me, I will play this video for you.
I would say my biggest frustration prior to using Blackline was having version control issues. Tracking down the latest version and having to retie everything, sometimes doing things multiple times, was just extremely inefficient. And so having Blackline as a system that we could rely on for the latest version was always a time saver.
Hi, Brandon. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm excited to learn more about your story with Blackline and learn about some of the benefits and the value that you've seen so far. So you mentioned that GoodRx is a fast-growing company. Can you tell me a little bit more about what GoodRx does and what makes your company unique?
GoodRx provides a range of different healthcare services, such as prescription savings or online doctor services. And we provide these services for a greater goal of making healthcare more affordable and accessible to all.
Prior to implementing Blackline, how much time would you say you were spending on administrative tasks?
Yeah, so prior to implementing Blackline, I would say the bulk of administrative tasks that we had to do had to deal with version control issues. So every time we would post a post-closing entry after the GL lock, and we would have a different version of the file. We would save it under like a V1, V2, V3, and so forth. And sometimes we wouldn't even have that similar file naming convention. And we saved all of these files in a file sharing software. And within this file sharing software, we just wouldn't know which file was the correct one when we had to pull it for auditors, or we had to pull it just for our purposes of rolling forward or just looking at the reconciliation. So having Blackline as a system where we could rely on knowing that we had the correct version really helps us from an admin perspective. When we were going public in August 2020, it was a time where we had pretty strict deadlines. And so having a system like Blackline that we could rely on and go back to for support, especially when it came to tying things in the S1, was really helpful, just because we didn't have to waste time searching for different versions of a reconciliation. We could just take the one in Blackline and have comfort in knowing that that's the most up-to-date version that was already approved and reviewed.
So I hope you found that useful, just giving you some ideas of where Blackline can benefit your organization. A couple of the things that I wanted to pick out on there was the fact that this was a company that has been fast growing over a period of time and was actually getting ready to go to IPO. So they needed to make sure that in order to be listed, that they were complying with all of the various regulations that they needed to. And secondly, it was the reallocation of work for those skilled accountants that they have in their finance department, who were able to actually focus on analysis, reporting, rather than doing the menial tasks, which so many accountants get caught up in when you've got a lot of manual processes. So, as Josh mentioned, we have a connector built with NetSuite. This means that there is a seamless integration. One of the big challenges that a lot of organizations have when they're going for new software is they are concerned about how much time is going to be taken to actually integrate with all of the other applications that they already have. And we've taken that pain away by developing this integration with NetSuite, so that any of the balances and transactions that you've got stored within NetSuite will seamlessly flow across into Blackline. And if further down the line you decide to use things like the journal entry module, as Josh pointed out, then you will have the ability to post those journals directly back into NetSuite without a lot of complicated integration and setup needed to be done in the background. This means that you can trust the data that you've got. There's no rekeying of data between systems. There's no taking data out of spreadsheets, for example, or relying on people to have to manually upload. All of this can be brought across. So we can manage our account reconciliations. We can manage all of the tasks. We can do the high volume transactional matching, and we can do the journal entries, all within one Blackline tool. Whether you've got one instance of NetSuite or many instances, or one instance of NetSuite and another ERP, all of that can be controlled from within Blackline. You have one source of the truth within there, as we saw when Josh did his demonstration a few minutes ago for you. So the last couple of slides that I'd like to finish with are talking about our foundation for modern accounting, or our modern accounting playbook, or map, as you may hear. This is our route into configuring Blackline for you. It is based on tried and tested methodology to ensure that we can implement in approximately 60 days for any NetSuite customer. It focuses on 3 key elements of the Blackline tool. The first is the closed task management. And when we talk about closed tasks, we're not necessarily just talking about those tasks for closing the general ledger, but all of the tasks that need to take place during the month. So you will have some tasks which will start taking place 5-6 days before you get to month end or quarter end. And you'll have other tasks which could be 5, 10, 15 days after you've actually closed your general ledger. All of those can be managed within the one application of Blackline. The automation of repetitive work with reconciliations. So we looked at the high volume transactional matching. And as Josh said there, we've got the ability to match potentially up to 1 million transactions a minute in a high volume scenario. But what we can also do is do all of your balance sheet reconciliations at the end of each month as well. And again, a number of those can be automated. You will have a number of accounts where the balance does not change from one period to the next. Things such as equity accounts, for example. And so if there has been no balance change, we can have the system automatically reconcile that. We can have the system automatically reconcile your control accounts, because we can take the feed not just from your NetSuite general ledger, but also from your receivables and payables ledgers as well. And there are multiple other types of account that can be automatically reconciled. And we can build in various rules to allow those to go through as long as they fit within certain boundaries or criteria. And then, of course, within that, you can embed all of the various controls you've got. So you're monitoring all of the results proactively rather than reactively. So if we look at what is the core of the modern accounting playbook, it's that centralized workspace. It's the standardized reconciliations with automating very many of them. It's the visibility to all of your close activities. It's having all of the reporting and proactive alerts. Rules-based transaction matching for bank files, but also enhancing all of the controls that you have probably got in place. And what that can mean is that as well as just having preparers, you can have your reviewers, approvers, with a complete segregation of duties all built into the tool as well. But then you can expand from there. So when you do identify exceptions, you can allow for ERPs to be posted directly back to with the journal entry, to send the information you've got from a reporting via an API into other tools that you may be used. For the transaction matching, whilst we provide the bank reconciliation as the core within the map, because that tends to be the biggest pain that most organizations have, we have about 400 use cases of other types of transactional matching of high volumes. You saw it was an intercompany transactional match that Josh showed you, but it could be points of sale, it could be credit cards, it could be inventory, stock, etc. You can then start going further with the journals and basing it on logic rules. We can do flux analysis. And then we can go into even more complex matching scenarios. It doesn't have to be just two-way matches. There is a lot more to Blackline than just the core modern accounting playbook, but you can get your return on investment very quickly through a 60-day implementation if you're a NetSuite user. And now I'd like to hand back to Gareth.
Thanks, Nigel. Thanks, Josh, for your presentation. Both fantastic. So it's not necessarily a worldwide first, but it's not often you'll hear a sales director talking around giving away things for free. However, here we go. So as a thank you to those who have attended, and I'm sure those who have attended today have probably heard some things that genuinely resonate with you as a business and also as a finance professional. So following on from today, what we would like to offer is a genuine free consultation to help you understand a little bit more in detail around how and where Blackline and the Folio 3 collaborations can support you further, but also to help us understand you as a business and whether we are a suitable fit in terms of the finance function and where you've got gaps, challenges, and where we could see some improvements. So off the back of that, our team will be reaching out to you over the next few days to make some arrangements with you on an individual level, and we can take it further from there. I think, Nigel, we've got some questions which I am going to position to yourself and Josh. So I hope, Josh, you're ready. Nigel, if you're ready for these. So we have actually had a couple of questions come through on chat. Just bear with me 1 second, I'll get these back up. So a couple of questions. Nigel, Josh, if you're ready. The first one's actually around security. What are the security arrangements which are in place to safeguard information held in Blackline? Who wants to field that one?
I'll pick that one up if I'm right to do so. Yeah, I mean, obviously our primary concern with we're holding your data in our system is security is at the forefront of our minds. You know, we wouldn't have a business over the last 21 years if we didn't take that incredibly seriously. So we're always happy to share our audit reports where they do a full audit on our system from a security perspective. We are SOC 123 compliant, which makes us fairly unique in the marketplace. We are ISO 27001 and ISO 27017. I confess I don't know what that means, but all I know is it's the top level in the market. We call it military grade because some of our customers out there, you know, they've done their own testing on the way we treat your data, and it's passed with flying colours. So, you know, always happy to share it. And actually, if you go onto our website, trust.blackline.com, you can see all of those security certificates. I'm always happy to talk to your InfoSec teams.
Brilliant. Thanks, Josh. So in a simple answer, it's secure. We'll go with that one.
Yeah, I could have just said that. Saves you all lots of time.
We'll go layman's terms. Brilliant. Next one. This one's in regards to the number of reconciliations. Someone's commented, we have a large number of reconciliations. Is there a limit on the number that can be completed through Blackline?
I mean, my example is we had 5,000 balance sheet reconciliations we were trying to do using Excel on a monthly basis, and the system swallowed that with ease. I mean, Camelot is a 10 billion revenue business. We've got customers as big as Amazon, Google, Shell, eBay, blah, blah, blah. They all use Blackline, and they've got hundreds of thousands of reconciliations. And again, the system does all of that very, very quickly indeed. So no, there's no limit. You may want to look at how frequently you're doing recs. Some recs may not need to be done every month, but quarterly you can do that based on the size of the balance, and then that will automatically assign it to monthly, quarterly, annually. If it changes, the system puts it right in front of you. So no, absolutely no limit on the number of recs.
And just to pick up on that as well, Gareth, is sometimes people get confused with their balance sheet recs and their transactional matching reconciliations. As Josh also pointed out during his presentation, that in the high volume matching, we can deal with up to 1 million transactions a minute in terms of reconciliations there as well. So if that's what the question was referring to, we can also deal with that.
Very good point. And actually, my favorite customer, mainly based on what they produce, is Domino's Pizza. And they do 40 million transactions a month through Blackline. If you ever order a pizza from there, it gets accounted for in Blackline. And if we can handle those kind of volumes without, you know, any delay to the system at all, then you know, we're confident that we can handle the biggest volumes.
Perfect. Couple following on from those are more related to kind of install and things like that. How much of our IT department time is required to support the installation?
Again, if that's all right, Nigel, I'll pick this one up. It's okay. One which is, how much do you want your IT department to get involved, and how much do you actually want Folio 3, who've got the experience in the market, to do for you? Because they've been there and done that. So you'd have to say best practice is get the experts who know what they're doing with the Blackline tool to do that for you. It is primarily a finance project because they know the workflows, the individuals involved. It's more configuration than implementation. So certainly from the IT side, the implementation piece is very, very minimal indeed. I know it was about a day's worth of time when we did it at Camelot. It may be slightly more than that, depending on how many systems you're integrating with. But obviously, when it comes to kind of the technical aspects, it's Folio 3 and finance kind of working together to get this configured.
Brilliant. Thanks, Josh. And again, from a Folio 3 point of view, just to add some context to that as well to the answer. I think when we look at from a consulting point of view, what is key specifically around finance related projects like this is where we utilize some of our certified chartered accountants on this type of kind of deployment as well. So not only are we adding some industry expertise in regards to ERP and solutions and platforms, we're also bringing some credible accounting experience at that kind of level as well. Okay. I think we've got two more if we've got time. I'm conscious that we've got literally 2 minutes. We'll have two quick rapid fire questions if we can, guys. Is this cloud-based or installed on our servers? I think we've answered that, Josh.
cloud-based only for the last decade. We were first in the industry to do so, but yeah, cloud-based only. It's the way, it's the future.
Perfect. This one, not necessarily always about size, but it's a good question to ask. We've only 7 people in our finance department. Are we too small for Blackline?
Not at all, especially for those companies that are kind of going to grow. You know, you don't want to necessarily throw more heads at the problem. Why not automate it so those 7 people can be spending more time analyzing the figures rather than, you know, matching transactions off manually. And as the company grows, you then don't need to add headcount to it. So 7, no, that's probably the sweet spot actually for our kind of mid-market focus.
Okay, perfect. Again, conscious of time, I think we've got through some good questions there. So I think we'll kind of bring the Q&A to an end. I think on behalf of myself, Nigel, Stanley and Josh, both from Blackline, I think a big thank you for those of you who have attended, invested your time into this afternoon, learning more about what Blackline does, the collaboration with Folio 3, and ultimately how we can kind of help you and support you moving forward. We do hope to see you again soon. There will be more of these webinars coming out, and we do look forward to hopefully working with you guys moving forward. On behalf of, again, myself, Nigel, Josh, and the rest of the team who've put this together, big thank you. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and goodbye from Seoul.
Thank you to everyone.